So I would now like to introduce our first speaker for the night. He's a professor of animal behavior in the Faculdade de Ciências da Universidade de Lisboa. He is also a researcher at the Center for Marine Studies of the University of Aveiro, and he was also the director of the Berlenga Natural Reserve. Please help me in welcoming Professor Luís Vicente.
Well, good evening. I'd like to thank the organizing committee of this event. I'm very glad to be here. I'm very glad to talk to you. I'm gonna talk about animal play in my perspective of an ethologist. I work in animal behavior and also in animal play. So, in my talk, I have a lot of questions I'm going to put forward to you. How can we define animal behavior? How can we define animal play? Criteria for recognizing play, types of play, function of play, and what about the theory of play? And I will give you some examples with dogs, jackals, wolves, and humans. I will speak a little bit about baby schema, about neoteny that Ricardo had to speak a little bit, and about hypertrophy. First of all, as I say to my students, how can we define behavior? And I usually say that behavior is a bridge between two things, between the nervous system and the ecosystem. Behavior is a phenotype. Like any other trait, behavior is a phenotype. Therefore, at a given time t, it results from a three-party dialectic dialogue. First of all, the genotype at time t minus 1. Second, the phenotype at time t minus 1. And third, the environment at time t minus 1. So it is a three-party dialogue. And play, can we define it? We know it when we see it, but it is very difficult to define. So, little problem. Okay. No. Beckhoff and Byers define play as a motor activity performed that appears purposeless. It's important, purposeless, and contains motor patterns from other contexts, usually in a modified form and altered temporal sequence. There is a formula by Gordon Burgert, a book from 2005. I like very much the title of the book because in the title it says that animal play is testing the limits, and he says that play is repeated in completely functional behavior differing from more serious versions structurally, contextually, or ontogenetically, and initiated voluntarily when the animal is in a relaxed and low-stress setting. So what is play? Important points is, should not be for a specific reason. It's purposeless. Contains other behaviors which are modified in same manner. Definition centers, as you can see, on form rather than function. It sounds good, but is an animal in a cage pacing back and forth with seemingly no purpose playing? How do we know it is purposeless? Is the big question. Okay? So we may not be able to tell, may have a purpose or a potential benefit later. I like this quotation from Abraham Maslow. Almost all creativity involves purposeful play. So I'm going to talk about types of play as we define it in animal behavior. We can categorize 3 different types of play. Object play, trying to see what they can do with it. It's important to distinguish it from object exploration, trying to figure out what an object is. Locomotor play involves some type of movement, and social play, playing with someone else. Thinking about function of play, about the benefits. So we can look at each category to see how each type may have a purpose. Object play, for future tool use performances. Locomotor play, exercise and training of specific motor skills needed later. And social play, a form of socialization and bonding. And those types of play may improve cognitive skills. Another important thing is that there is high brain activity during play. Elevated levels of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine during play. And we know also that glucocorticoids increase play activity. So I have another quotation from Montaigne, a French essayist. Children at play are not playing about. Their games should be seen as their most serious-minded activity. And next, another quotation from Esker. My work is a game, a very serious game. Why should animals devote time and effort to play? That's another question that we put. There's a theory about it. It is an ontogenetic process preparing the animal for later life by perfecting the performance of critical behavioral patterns. Is it a pre-adaptation? It's a long discussion if we talk about pre-adaptations. So, the quotation from Einstein, the only source of knowledge is experience. And a quotation by Confucius, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Function of play. Overall function could be to prepare individual not just for adulthood, but for the uncertainties of adulthood. Mark Bekoff, a friend of mine, says that play is training for the unexpected. So it's time to thank to Mark Bekoff from all of I learned with him about play. Well, and what about the general theory of play? Main function of all play is to develop physical and psychological skills to handle unexpected events where you lose control. Increases versatility of movements used to recover loss of balance. Enhance ability of animals to cope with unexpected stressful situations. Another quotation for Diane Ackerman, play is our brain's favorite way of learning. And an important question when you work in animal behavior and when we look at an animal, we want to know if the animal is playing or not. How do you know it? And how do the other animals in the group know that a specific animal is playing? If this is practice for later, how do the participants in the play know this is not the real thing? The order and frequency of play activity are not the same as the real thing. Play is exaggerated and misplaced. Play markers or signals, stereotypic activities designed to signal intent. And third, role reversal and self-handicapping. It is very important when in animal play. So here, what would normally be a dominant individual will take a subordinate role. Let the other one win. Why? Let your little brother beat you or he may not play with you. Okay? So another quotation from an NBA player, it's important. When you are not practicing, remember someone somewhere is practicing, and when you meet him, he will win. And it's very important as in embryogenesis, behavioral development is not merely an unfolding of the genetic code, but a result of dynamic interactions between the organism and the environment. Now I would like to talk you about some examples. First of all, dogs. This is a phylogenetic tree based on mitochondrial DNA of the Canis family, and I'm particularly interested in this small group where we have dog and gray wolf. I have it here. Okay, these three animals, golden jackal, dog, and gray wolf, are very important to understand the story of play. Jackals play during all their lives, but wolves only play during childhood. In this context, dogs are more like jackals than like wolves. Dogs play during all their lives. But genetic analysis suggests that the dog is a domesticated wolf. We have no doubt about this. Instead, behavioral analysis suggests that the dog is a domesticated jackal. Okay? The question is if there is a contradiction. No, there is not a contradiction. The phylogenetic group that includes dogs, wolves, and jackals is a superspecies. What does it mean? That they are distinct species only because they are allopathic. The superspecies shares a common genetic background with genes differentially silenced. During the domestication of the wolf, and there was a wolf that was domesticated 14,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. During the domestication of the wolf, were artificially selected behavioral jackal genes under a human social environment. It's very simple to understand. Another trait that I would like to talk is about something that Konrad Lorenz called the Kindenschema, a baby schema. He remarks that a baby mammal, a baby reptile, a baby fish have some traits, very specific, that are inhibitors of aggressivity. For example, if we look to a human baby, the head is large in relation to the body. Eye for head is very important. Eye space low on head, more usually large and wide apart. Nose, mouth are always small. And this is an illustration from Stephen Jay Gould that Ricardo has speak about. It's the evolution of Mickey Mouse towards a baby schema. Okay. So play is the behavioral component of the Kindenschema. We say that play is the Kindenschema have also a behavioral component. Is play. Another question, and Ricardo have speak a little bit about it, is neoteny. What is this? It was the first guy that has talked about it was Louis Bolk at the beginning of the 20th century, in 1920, and he says that humans are primate larvae that attain the sexual capacity of reproduction. So is the retention of juvenile characteristics in the adults of a species as among certain amphibians, like this one, that he has the phenotype of an amphibian larva, but it reproduces like this. The attainment of sexual maturity by an organism still in its larval stage. At this point, I will recommend you a book. I think it's very important. It's a book by Aldous Huxley that speaks about all this story of neoteny. The book is called "After Many a Summer Dies the Swan." and there is a Portuguese translation. The name is Também o Cisne Morre. So, adult wolves don't play, only puppy wolves. Adult dogs play. There is a neotenic selection. Adult jackals plays. It is a neotenic character. And now let's talk a little bit about our family, about humans. And it's important to quote Darwin here. The difference in mind between man and the higher animals, great as it is, certainly is one of degree and not of kind. Okay, humans, as Ricardo chose, have a baby schema. We are neotenic animals, like Louis Bolk and after Adolf Portman and later Stephen Jay Gould have explained to us. So neoteny in humans, first because of head size constraints on delivery, burst canal is too small, and then as a key feature for prolonged behavioral plasticity. That's the story of constraints to the delivery of a human baby. Bolk says that our brain, if we attain the end of gestation, it was impossible to be born. So the natural selection favorized humans that was able to abort something that can survive at the ninth month of gestation. But the consequences is our neotenic phenotype. We have what should be our adult skull and our neotenic skull, very close to a chimpanzee fetus. So our brain is an hypertelic brain. It is a big brain with 10 up to 27 synapses, 23 neurons. It's a sort of strange thing in nature. Georges Cuvier was not able to understand this at the 19th century. And why? Chimps have 38 chromosomes. We have chimps have 48 chromosomes. We have 46 chromosomes. But it's only a translocation. Okay? Not more than a Robertsonian translocation. And what's the story about it? So we think that our neoteny condition, neotenic condition, results from a mutation that has surged between 3 million years and 2 million years ago from a gene MYH16 that conducts us to our neotenic condition. So play is really the highest form of research. And that's why we are the eternal child. And here I show you big players, big childs, Charles Darwin, Barbara McClintock, Bertrand Russell. You in your labs are always playing. Science is a game with a lot of rules, but it's a game. All games need rules, science also. And Crick and Watson, why not? They are also big players. And we have a last question, only one. What do you know about whether learning in a game is transferred to real life? Is our big question in ethology. And thanks a lot for your attention.
So, thank you, Professor Luís. We have time for 2 questions, maybe if somebody has a question. And as perguntas também podem ser feitas em português, se isso for. Yeah.
Hello, thank you for everything we learned tonight. I'm just wondering why you think and why it's maintained the thought that maybe there could be genetic traits that would lead to these behaviors and not just a maintained social behavior that is taught to the children and then maintained not by genetics but like a social behavior. Because it's hard to believe that genetic mutation and those kind of traits could be preserved like that, you know, and not in, because if it is beneficial, why not in other animals? And it would make more sense to me if it would be a social behavior that isn't being maintained, but I don't know.
It's not I have not talked about the genetic mutation for playing, but about the genetic mutation for having an hypertelic brain. The main question is if we humans are born 9 months before they need to born, if they born like in the phenotypic condition of a chimpanzee, we needed more 9 months. About 9 months is 1 year of gestation. So we are born with a very incomplete brain. For example, our neurons are not myelinized. Our brain will be constructed in a social environment. Are altricial babies that needs very deep epileptic care, that needs a very important bonding, social bonding between adults, and that make us like jackals, like lots of mammals, reptiles, including fishes. Now there are big work, a lot of work about play in fishes, but that let us play to learn about life. What Aldous Huxley, the story that Aldous Huxley told us is the story that someone is looking at a source, some source of eternal childhood. And at the end of the story, this person found the source of eternal childhood. And there were 2 guardians of this source, and they were drinking the drink that gives them the eternal childhood. And so they are very, very old, about 500 years of age. And when we look to them, they are chimpanzees. So if you have time to grow and to have our lives till the end, till an adult stage, so we will have a phenotype like a chimpanzee. But it's not a genetic mutation for playing. It's a genetic mutation for having a very big brain. That's the story that Stephen Jay Gould told us in his PhD thesis about neoteny. I don't know if I've answered you.
So let's thank again Professor Luis for coming.